Hey there, future paleo nerd! Welcome to Chapter 1 of our Stickman adventure, our ancient cousins, who were the Neanderthals. Imagine this. It's 400,000 years ago. Europe is a frozen playground, packed with woolly mammoths and saber-toothed cats. And strutting around like they own the place? Not us. Not yet. Meet your long-lost relatives, the Neanderthals. These guys weren't the dumb, club-wielding cavemen from old cartoons. Oh no. They were tough, clever, built to survive. Picture a stickman version of a Neanderthal, shorter than us, but way stockier, like a compact linebacker doing CrossFit in a blizzard, big brow ridges, a massive nose built to warm icy air, and a brain actually a bit larger than ours on average. Yeah, they'd probably beat us at Sudoku, if they had the app. They lived across Europe, the Middle East, and parts of Asia for hundreds of thousands of years. They mastered fire, made sophisticated stone tools, known as the Mousterian toolkit, basically really sharp rocks. They hunted giant animals, worked together, and maybe even buried their dead with flowers. Romantic, or at least thoughtful. While modern humans were still hanging out in Africa, admiring cool shells and figuring things out, Neanderthals were already handling full-on Ice Age chaos. Glaciers? No problem. They adapted like absolute pros. But here's where it gets really interesting. Genetically, we're incredibly close. We share about 99.7% of our DNA with them. That means, deep down, you and a Neanderthal could have been cousins, arguing over the last piece of mammoth steak. So why does any of this matter? Because these ancient cousins left us something behind, a hidden inheritance. Their DNA is still inside many of us today, quietly influencing who we are. And in the next chapter, a group of bold, curious sapiens are about to leave Africa and walk straight into Neanderthal territory. Two human worlds about to collide. You ready? Let's keep rolling. Hey friend, welcome back to our Stickman saga. You just met the tough Neanderthals, chilling in frozen Europe. Now it's time for Chapter 2, The Great Migration. Modern humans leave Africa. Picture this. Around 300,000 years ago, in Africa, your ancestors show up. Homo sapiens. No big rush at first, just living, learning, making better tools, painting on cave walls, slowly leveling up those brains. And then, thousands of years later, something changes. Around 60 to 70,000 years ago, a small group decides maybe it's time to move on. So they gather their spears, grab a few snacks, and basically say, let's see what's out there. Now imagine this. A group of skinny, determined stick figures, waving goodbye to the African savanna. They head into the unknown, across dry, dusty lands, dodging predators that definitely see humans as lunch. Step by step, they make their way into the Middle East. No massive army, more like one extended family road trip, with no map, no GPS, just instinct and courage. And here's where it gets wild. Only a tiny group makes it out. Just a handful of humans. But from them come almost all non-Africans alive today. That's what we call a genetic bottleneck, like squeezing an entire population through a very narrow doorway. Less diversity, because it all started with so few, and the journey, not easy. New climates, strange landscapes, massive animals. That would happily add humans to the menu. But these sapiens adapt. They improve their tools, work together, and keep moving forward. And then, right over the horizon, something unexpected, because this land is not empty. For over 400,000 years, another human species has already been here, living, surviving, thriving, the Neanderthals, which means our skinny travelers are about to walk straight into someone else's territory. Awkward. So what happens next? Friendly meetings, shared knowledge, or total chaos? Stick around, Paleo Explorer, because in the next chapter, the first encounters begin. Hey there, brave explorer. You've watched our Sapiens crew migrate out of Africa like the ultimate road trip. Now buckle up for Chapter 3, The First Encounters, where things get really interesting. Around 47 to 50,000 years ago, after crossing the Middle East, our skinny Homo sapiens finally meet the locals, the Neanderthals. And these weren't newcomers. They had been living across Europe and Western Asia for over 400,000 years. Imagine showing up to a party, and the hosts have been there forever. Now here's the twist. It probably wasn't some dramatic showdown, no epic battles, No wild movie scenes. Instead, picture quiet encounters, small groups sharing the same valleys, the same rivers, the same hunting grounds for thousands of years. Maybe they spotted each other at a waterhole, paused, stared. Maybe they exchanged tools or awkward little gestures that meant hello. Now imagine this. A group of curious sapiens wanders into a new camp, and suddenly they freeze. Across the fire, stockier Neanderthals, roasting mammoth meat. One skinny sapiens slowly raises a hand. A nervous wave. A Neanderthal tilts his heavy brow, and maybe, just maybe, waves back, or maybe not. Maybe they just stood there thinking, who are these tall, skinny strangers? Scientists believe these two groups overlapped for about 5,000 to 7,000 years. Long enough for curiosity, for competition, and yes, for something a little more personal. Because when humans meet, well, babies tend to happen. There's no strong evidence of massive wars. But life wasn't easy. They competed for food, for shelter, for survival. And somewhere in that mix, tension, cooperation, curiosity, interbreeding happened. We know this because it's written in our DNA. So what were they really? Friends? Rivals? Something in between? In the next chapter, we dive deeper into those connections and how Neanderthal DNA ended up inside many of us today. Stay tuned, because this family reunion is about to get genetic. Hey there, DNA detective! Chapters 1 through 3 have set the stage. Neanderthals in Europe, Homo sapiens migrating out of Africa, and those first awkward encounters. Now, things get genetic. Welcome to Chapter 4, Interbreeding, Leaving a Genetic Legacy. Fast forward to 2010. A brilliant scientist, Svante Pääbo, and his team pull off something incredible. They extract DNA from ancient Neanderthal bones and sequence the entire genome. And what they find? It changes everything. Here's the big reveal. Most people outside Africa today carry about 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA. That's right, you, me, millions of people across Europe and Asia, all walking around with a tiny piece of Neanderthal ancestry. Now picture this, a glowing double helix, slowly spinning in the dark. Suddenly, bright strands light up inside it. Those are the Neanderthal pieces. A sapien stickman reaches out. A stocky Neanderthal meets him halfway. A simple high five, and sparks of DNA jump between them. Connection made. But this wasn't just a one-time moment. It likely happened again and again, over thousands of years, as sapiens moved through the Middle East and deeper into Eurasia. The result? Neanderthal genes slipped into the human gene pool through a process called introgression. A fancy way of saying their DNA stayed. And here's the coolest part. Not all of it was lost. Some of those genes were actually useful, so natural selection kept them, passing them down across nearly 2,000 generations, all the way to you. Now imagine a map. Populations across Europe and Asia begin to glow. 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA. In some regions, like East Asia, just a little bit more. But in sub-Saharan Africa, if your ancestors stayed there the whole time, 0, no Neanderthal bonus. So next time you look in the mirror, remember this. You're not just modern human, you're a living blend, a subtle hybrid, with a hidden Ice Age upgrade written into your genes. But that raises a bigger question: which genes stayed, and why those ones? That's where things get really exciting. In the next chapter, we uncover the traits Neanderthals passed on, and how they may still shape your body today. Ready to see what you inherited? Let's go. Hey there, upgrade enthusiast. You now know we carry about 1 to 2% Neanderthals DNA. But why did evolution keep those bits? Welcome to Chapter 5, Adaptive Introgression, the Gifts from Neanderthals. Here's the secret. Neanderthals had already spent over 400,000 years surviving in Ice Age Europe and Asia. Cold climates, new diseases, unusual diets. They weren't just surviving, they were prepared. So when Homo sapiens arrived, they got something incredible, a genetic shortcut, a cheat code. Imagine this, a skinny sapien stickman, shivering in the snow, teeth chattering, and then, zap, a glowing Neanderthal gene drops in. Suddenly, he straightens up. Hey, this cold isn't so bad. That's adaptive introgression, helpful genes. staying in the population, because they improve survival. So what kind of upgrades did we get? Some pretty powerful ones. First, immune system boosts. Neanderthal genes helped sapiens fight off new Eurasian viruses and bacteria. Different land, different germs, better defenses. Thanks, ancient cousins. Next, skin and hair. Genes like BNC2 helped with UV protection, improved vitamin D production, and influenced skin tone and hair traits, making life in low sunlight regions a lot easier. No more turning into human popsicles. We also picked up useful tweaks for metabolism, blood clotting, and even adaptations for extreme environments in some populations. A full survival toolkit designed for life beyond Africa. Of course, not every gift was perfect. Some of these genes today are linked to higher risks of autoimmune conditions, so it's a trade-off. Ancient advantages with modern side effects, but overall, total win. Picture this: a modern stickman, standing tall, a faint Neanderthal glow around him. Level up complete. Those ancient genes helped our species spread across the entire planet fast. So next time you handle the cold or fight off a stubborn bug, give a little mental high five to your Neanderthal ancestors. But wait, not everything mixed smoothly. In fact, there's a strange gap in our DNA. In the next chapter, we uncover the mystery of the missing Neanderthal DNA on the X chromosome. And trust me, this is where things get weirdly scientific. Stick around, because this story just keeps getting better. Hey there, chromosome detective. We've already seen how Neanderthal DNA gave us some pretty incredible survival upgrades. Stronger immunity, better adaptation to cold, real evolutionary perks. But not everything mixed so smoothly. Welcome to one of the strangest parts of the story. Chapter 6, the X chromosome mystery. Here's the weird discovery. When scientists mapped Neanderthal DNA in modern humans, they noticed something surprising. There's almost none on the X chromosome. It's like evolution took a giant eraser and wiped most of it out. So the big question is, why? Let's break it down. First possibility, hybrid incompatibility. When Homo sapiens and Neanderthals had children, some gene combinations didn't work very well, especially those on the X chromosome. This connects to something called Haldane's rule. In many species, the sex with two different chromosomes, that's males with X and Y, tends to have more fertility problems in hybrids, so if something goes wrong genetically, it shows up there first. Now, here's the second clue, and it's a big one. The mixing between these groups was probably sex-biased. Genetic evidence suggests that most pairings were between Neanderthal males and sapiens females, not the other way around. That detail changes everything, because in that pairing, the child usually inherits an X chromosome from the sapiens mother, and either an X or Y from the Neanderthal father. Now imagine this: a Neanderthal father and a sapiens mother have a baby. If it's a boy, he gets the Y from dad and the X from mom. Safe. But if Neanderthal X chromosomes carried genes that caused fertility issues, those problems would show up in later generations. And over time, natural selection steps in, quietly, consistently, and removes those problematic genes from the population. Not instantly, but gradually, generation after generation. So what you end up with is this: Neanderthal DNA stays in parts of our genome where it's helpful, but on the X chromosome, it gets filtered out, almost completely. It's not that interbreeding didn't happen, it did. But evolution acted like a very picky editor, keeping what worked and cutting what didn't. And that's what makes this mystery so fascinating, because it shows us something real and raw about human history. Mixing between species wasn't always smooth. Some combinations thrived, others quietly disappeared. So the next time you hear someone say, "We're all hybrids," remember, nature ran some serious quality control. In our final chapter, we'll uncover what happened to the Neanderthals themselves and why their DNA is still living inside most of us today. Ready for the grand finale? Let's roll! Hey there, time traveler! We've come a long way, from tough Neanderthals to epic migrations, awkward encounters, genetic upgrades, and even chromosome mysteries. And now, it's time for the grand finale. Chapter 7, the extinction and our enduring Neanderthal DNA. Around 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals vanished from the fossil record. Gone. Their last known strongholds were likely in parts of Spain and Portugal, small pockets, holding on until the very end. So what happened? Well, It wasn't one dramatic event, no giant asteroid, no single catastrophe. Instead, it was a perfect storm. Climate change was intensifying at the end of the Ice Age, temperatures swinging wildly, environments shifting fast. At the same time, they faced competition from Homo sapiens, groups that were larger, more connected, and reproducing more quickly. And then, another invisible factor: disease. Sapiens may have carried pathogens that Neanderthals had never encountered, leaving them with little to no defense. Add to that their already small population sizes, and inbreeding became a serious problem. All of it combined, slowly, relentlessly, pushing them toward extinction. But here's the twist: they didn't completely disappear. Some Neanderthals were absorbed into sapiens populations through interbreeding, and their genes, they're still here, living on, inside you and me. Today, about 1 to 2% of the DNA in many modern humans comes from Neanderthals. And it's not just sitting there doing nothing, it still affects us, our immune systems, our skin and hair traits, our metabolism, even how we respond to certain diseases. Some studies suggest links to slightly higher risks of autoimmune conditions, or even depression. But overall, these genes helped our ancestors survive and spread across the planet. Now imagine this, the final scene. A modern human stickman, standing tall, and beside him, a faint glowing Neanderthal shadow, both giving a thumbs up. Because in a way, we're all living hybrids. So what's the big takeaway? Neanderthals weren't a failed branch of the human family tree, they were our cousins, and they helped shape who we are today. Without their genetic contributions, our journey across the globe might have been much harder. We didn't just replace them, we partly became them. And that is the beautiful, messy, slightly funny story of how modern humans ended up carrying a little piece of the Ice Age in our veins. Thanks for joining this Stickman adventure through 50,000 years of history. If you enjoyed discovering your inner Neanderthal, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what Neanderthal trait do you think you have? See you in the next video. Stay curious and keep evolving.